Hello, this is Joe Boley. This is my assignment for FED Class 106, assignment number 6, safely setting up and lighting an acetylene torch. To start off with, I have all my PPE here. I have gloves. I've got a face shield, which is either number 3 or number 5 shade. I've got a welding jacket here. My hat is optional. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up the torches. What you need to do is take off the valve protection caps. I have this wrench that has this hook that's made specifically for this. Sometimes these valve protection caps are rusty, but you can't put any kind of lubrication on there at all because you could have spontaneous combustion because of it. So if they're at all hard to get off, you put this hook in a hole and you can loosen it up. That's what the back side of this wrench is for. So I take off the valve protection caps, set them aside. And now I crack open the valves, just so I know I've got gas in there. This is the oxygen tank, okay? And then sometimes you'll have an acetylene tank that'll have a valve that's vertical, and if you're working outside, it could get dust or water in it. So that's another reason why you crack them open. Okay, so I know I've got a full tank. Now I take my gauges, okay? And if you look at these gauges here, there's differences in them. The main difference here is this nut on here has a little groove all the way around it. When you see that nut with the groove, you know this is left-handed thread for gas, okay? So this will go on to the acetylene tank. Left-handed thread. So I tighten that up hand tight. Now the oxygen one. I'll turn that gauge so you can see it. So now that those are hand tight, now I take this wrench again, tighten it up. Now they're brass, they don't have to be crazy tight, but you want to put some pressure on them. And remember, this is left-handed thread on the gas. Okay? So that's that there. Now this is my hose. All torch hoses are red and green. Green is for oxygen, red is for acetylene or whatever gas. But some of them are made of different grade rubbers for whatever type of fuel gas you're using. So first of all, I connect these ends to the regulator. Green goes to oxygen. And red, you'll notice also, this has a little groove, so this is left-handed thread as well. Now the other end of the torch hose, red and green again. Now I have my torch head. If you look on the torch head, it's got an O for oxygen and an F for fuel. And again, this end has a groove, so that means left-handed thread. So I put it the opposite way. Now these are snug. I got my 11/16 wrench. I hold the torch down with my hand to kind of support it. Tighten it this one this way. This the opposite way because it's left-handed thread. And remember, it's brass, it's a soft metal. You want them snug, you want them leak-free, but they don't have to be crazy tight. Same over here, tighten this up. Tighten that up there. So now everything is set up and tight. Now, I got the valves off on my torch. Now it's time to set the regulators. First thing I do is I crack open the tank slowly, but you never stand in front of this regulator screw, okay? So I crack it open slowly, and then one full turn on the acetylene. If you were to have a fire, you'd want to turn the acetylene off. Oxygen doesn't matter, okay? So that's why it's only one full turn so that you can turn it off. Oxygen, again, I'm not standing in front of the regulator screw. Crack it open, and then I open this one up all the way. The oxygen tank has a double-seated valve, so it's closed there. When you open it all the way up so it seats at the top. So now both tanks are open. I look at the needles haven't moved yet, so now I'm going to adjust the regulators. So I'm going to go 40 on the oxygen and 5 on the acetylene. So I turn this regulator screw in, and what's happening is I tighten that screw in, it presses on a diaphragm that lets the gas pass it. Okay, so I'm tightening this up. Okay, I went a little past 40, but I'm going to handle that. This one I'm going to go to 5. Okay, it's at 5. Now I take my torch to check the pressure in my torch. So I'm here by the acetylene tank. I crack open the gas, and then I'm going to back off this screw so it's right at 5. Okay? Then I close this. Now, this bottom one is open. This is oxygen, and then this is oxygen as well. So I'm going to adjust my oxygen through this one. Leave this one as an open valve. I look at it, I'm at 60. So I open this up, I can hear oxygen coming out, and I back off the regulator screw. Okay, now I'm at 40. Sometimes the needles will go up a little bit, but you know with the valve open, it's at the right pressure. Okay, so now I'm ready to light the torch. I'm going to put on my PPE. And another thing to remember while I'm doing this is, acetylene, I've got this set at 5, but the max pressure you're supposed to have with acetylene is 15. Above that, it can be very dangerous. So you never go above 15 on your acetylene. Okay, so I have my weld jacket on, my torch shield. I usually have a number 3 in here. It's easier to see through, but if you're doing a lot of torching, you might want a number 5. It's a lot darker. So now I'm going to light the torch. Okay, this is my striker. This is the safest method of lighting the torch. It's got a little flint in there. You'd never want to light it with like a butane lighter. So I've got my torch. I got my striker. What I'm going to do is just crack open the acetylene. Okay, just want a small flame. Now I open this acetylene up until I have a separation between my tip and the flame. Okay, so the tip isn't married to the flame. Now, once I have that, I open up the oxygen. I crack it open. And if you see I got a long blue flame here, what we're after is a neutral flame. So what I want to do is give it more oxygen to sharpen up that tip. Okay, these are called a preheat flame. This is what I want just about on the steel when I'm cutting. Now that these look sharp, I hit the trigger. Okay? You don't ever want it to glow. See how it's growing there? That's not good. That's not set correctly. So you want to hold this, sharpen up the oxygen. Okay? And now you're ready to cut safely and using the most efficient amount of gas there is. Now I'm going to shut the torch off. You turn it on and you shut it off by the acetylene first, always. So I shut off my gas, then I shut off my oxygen. Okay? So now my torch is off. I want to break this torch down safely. So what I do is, first thing is I shut off the tanks. Now even though the regulator's left-handed thread, it's righty-tighty on the tanks themselves. So I shut the tanks off. Okay, so now no more gas is provided or oxygen. Now I'm going to purge the line, everything that was in the hose. So I crack open the acetylene, I open it, and you can see the needles drop, hopefully. So that means this line is now purged. Close that valve, do the same thing with the oxygen. I open that up, and the needles drop. So now the torch is purged. Okay? One more thing is there's a little bit of residual gas left in the regulator, so what I'm going to do is back these off. 3 or 4 turns till that regulator screw is loose. Okay, so now the torches are completely safe, there's no pressure. Now I just go backwards in the steps that I did to set it up. Break that loose. Done with that wrench. take it off the regulators. Roll my hose up so it's not on the floor. Take off my regulators. Remember, this one's left-handed thread. And then put my caps on, my valve protection caps. And there you go. That's the safe way of setting up, lighting, and dismantling an acetylene torch. Thank you.